Hey you all, I'm so hyped to fellow dressmakers. You're welcome to another interesting tutorial. My name is Confidence. In this video, I'll be showing you two ways you can make this beautiful puff sleeve with round sleeve tie or rope. And the good thing is that one saves much fabric more than the other. Now if you want to see how I made this, make sure you watch this video to the very end and let's get into it.
Hello, you don't even know my name, but I am happy you came by.
So for this particular method, you will need at least 1¼ yards. That's about 45 inches. Okay. Depending on how full and how wide you want the rope to be. Ankara is by 45. Now I'm going to fold it like this. Can you see this? Just fold it like this so that you have the 22½ inches length of the Ankara like this. So I have 22½ here. I'm going to fold this like this to give me at least 20 inches. And you can actually do it to be 22½ by 22½ depending on what you want. Okay, but I'm going for this 20 by 22½, and you will see the reason in a bit. So like I said, you can make it equal, 22½ by 22½, but here I have 20 inches. I'll be using the rest for the rope. So now I'll come to this part that we have 22½ and mark the length. The length is actually 12 inches. I'll add extra 3 inches, making it 15 inches. You can do more or less if you want. Then I'll mark it. I'll measure what I have from that point to this tip, and I have 7½. I'm going to mark that 7½ all around to meet this 7½ here. Then I'll curve it. Just the same way you cut a 360 degrees flare. Now, this part is shorter than the other part because this part will be going to the armpit. Whatever you use to curve your sleeve, let's say you use 3 inches or 3½ or 4 inches to curve your sleeve, make sure you have the value here. So when you minus 3 inches or 4 inches from 15 inches, you are going to impute the value you got from that on this part. So that by the time you finish fixing your sleeve, it's not going to drop on the armpit area, your underarm. Hope you get that. By the time I measure around the radius, I have about 12 inches, and the armhole of the person I'm working with is 18 inches. So I'll use the other one for the plate. Then I'm going to mark 15 inches to meet the 12 inches we have on this part. 12½ actually. Then I'll cut it out. First cut the radius and then the length. After cutting, slash open these two parts because we are cutting for the two sleeves, right? So again, let's do this again. Whatever you use to curve your sleeve, make sure that by the time you're done curving the sleeve, whatever value you should have, that's what you have on this part. Or to just make it easy for you, mark your actual length. The length is actually 12 inches and I have 15 inches on the other side, right? I have 12 inches on this part now. So when making a puff sleeve, you add to the length so that by the time you put it to your actual length, actual sleeve length, is going to add to the puffiness. That's why we added the 3 inches on the other part. But this part right here is 12 inches, which is the actual length. So I'll trim this part, make it straight, then I'm going to fold it like this. For the rope or the tie, go ahead and do whatever weight that you want. If you want 2 inches, 1½. But here I want to use 4½. So by the time I'm done sewing, the 4½, after folding it to be 2.25, right? By the time I'm done sewing, I will have 2 inches left. So I'll make sure I have 4½ from this top here all the way to the down. Then I'll cut it out. The person wants this strip to be long, so after cutting this one, this is for the two sleeves, right? I'll now take one again and use it to cut out another one, but this time around it's not going to be on fold, just like this. So I'll cut it out, then open it to make it 2 equal halves. Then I will join one to this one and join the other one to the other strip. That way we have 45 inches plus extra 22½, right? Depending on how long you want it to be, go ahead and make yours that long. But this is the length I'm going for. Then to make it very easy for you, go ahead and fold it on this one part here. But let's keep this aside and work on the second method. For this one, I have this small Ankara. The other one the other blue Ankara is actually 100% cotton. But this one is small Ankara. So for this method, you will need your basic sleeve pattern, and I have mine here. This part will be going to the front armhole, another part to the back armhole. Now what you're going to do is to fold this on angle 90. Just triangle like this. Just fold it single like this. This particular method actually saves more fabric than the other one. But the other one, it's actually kind of fuller than this one. But the two give the same result. So after folding it like this, you're going to take your basic sleeve pattern like this. And if you're wondering why I folded it here, that line is actually the elbow line, which is the length that I'm going for. So I just folded it on that part to make it very easy for me. Now place it like this, and then the space you give on this part depends on how full or how much pleats you want to add. The fuller you want it, the more you bring the pattern down. But please do not place the pattern like this. Just make sure the tip is on the folded part of this fabric. Then the more you want the pleat, the more you shift it down. The more you shift it down, the fuller the sleeve will be. But for me, I just want it like this. I don't want too much pleat. I don't want it too full. Okay, so I will mark the length. Then I'll start from this tip here and measure down to that length and add extra 3 inches like this. I'll mark the 3 inch yeah, the length all around like this, then curve it like so. Then I'll place the pattern again like this and trace out this armhole part. Just go ahead and trace it out like so. You can just cut it without tracing it anyway, but let's just trace it out. So after that, I'll measure then I have my length here, and on this part I have 12 and that. I have 16 inches here, and I have 12 and that on the other part, which is just what we have on the other one. Then I'm going to cut it out like so. Like I said, if you want it fuller, increase the length or bring your pattern down the more. So after cutting, I notch the center part, then I'll open it up like this. Take the pattern and spread the pattern too, making sure that these two centers are matching up like so. And then I'll shift it like this, just so I can cut out the part that will be going to the front armhole. This is a basic sleeve pattern, and if you don't know how to do that, I have a detailed tutorial on the channel about that. I'll notch it just so I know that that part will be going to the front armhole. This is a puff sleeve. It might not be needed, but just do it, okay? Now I'll go ahead and place it on this fabric like this. It's single, except you want to use the same fabric as lining, then you're going to fold it. So I'll place it like this, then I'm going to cut it out. I used 1 yard of fabric, in fact less than 1 yard of fabric for this one, but for the previous one, the blue Ankara, I used 1.5 for that. Okay, so know the one that you will go for or the one that suits your preference. So now let's check. I'll place this blue Ankara on this one, and you see that it's actually longer than this one, wider than this one. So I'll be using lining for the purple Ankara. Then for this blue one, I won't be adding any lining to it, just lining for the purple Ankara. Then the blue is just like that. I'm gonna have to cut the lining for this purple Ankara like so. Then I'm going to place the fashion fabric on the lining like this, and then I just flip the lining because I didn't place it right previously. Now I'm going to just top stitch on that armhole part. Then on this part, I'm going to pleat, or you run gathers. Just run a gather stitch here, and then you gather it to be your round sleeve measurement here. But for me, I'll just be pleating manually to have something like this. For here, I have 12 inches instead of 11 inches, which is a round sleeve measurement. I'll be using the other 1 inch to close it, which I'll just show you in a bit. So go ahead and hold it like this and go to your sewing machine and run a stitch here with ½ inch or 0.25. Then after stitching it down like that, you're going to trim off this excess. Just trim it to make it thin. The allowance there, the stitching allowance there, make it thin. Then you turn it to the wrong side, and then you're going to now close it with ½ inch like this. That way you exhaust the extra 1 inch we added to the round sleeve. This is what I have after stitching it. Can you see that? Now I'm going to turn it to the right side again, and you can see that it's not actually as small as it was looking. So it's actually puffy, just what you want. I'm going to take this strip here. Like I said, go ahead and fold it on one part just to make it very easy for you. But I do not have the means of ironing at the moment of this tutorial. So I'll just go ahead and fold it into two like this to get the midpoint. I'll notch the midpoint, and then I'll take the sleeve itself. Then that part that we closed it, I'll hold it from that part and get the midpoint here like this. Then I will notch it. So that would be the midpoint. Then I'll take the strip like this. That midpoint, the right side of the strip will be going to the wrong side of the sleeve. Then I'm going to place the midpoint of the sleeve to the part that we use to close the sleeve. I'm going to stitch it like that until I get to the midpoint, that part that we notched. Then I'll stop. Okay, I'll start from this end again. I'll come back to that part that we close the sleeve, and then I'll start stitching, joining the strip and then the fabric until I get to the other, to the midpoint again. Just something like this. It's not that complicated. Okay, so this is it. Now what I'm going to do is to go ahead and fold it over like this, and then I'll stitch with 0.25, or if you want to use half inch stitching allowance, go ahead and close it to that point. Do the second one to have something like this. Can you see? This is just straightforward. I'll use my scissors to turn it to the right side, just something like this. I'll turn it from this point here and then turn the second one.
It's only been a few days. I set my eyes on you, babe. Is it love at first sight? Turn on the lights, see the mess you made. 1, 2, in love with you. 3, 4, I'm on the floor. Come pick me up, oh, and tell me you know for sure. What you want, believe if you know, believe. I'm not deceived, I'm not deceived. And my love go past the love you give me. If I follow your hand, I beg you.
So after turning, you can decide to go ahead and give it a good press, just the strip yet, before proceeding to the next stage, or you just complete it before you go ahead and iron it. Now this is why I said you should fold one side before doing all of this. That's if you have the means, but even if you did not fold it, trust me, it did not change anything, just that it might be easier. It would be easier if you folded it on one side. Next, you're going to start placing it on it. Just fold it as you go. You start from the midpoint, obviously. Then you're going to fold it like that and stitch on it, top stitch on it to the other end. Make sure it's not folding on the under. Okay, make sure you're not folding the lining or something like that on the under while you're stitch. So after stitching, this is what we have. Can you see how neat this thing is? Just make sure you have something as neat as this, and then you're going to go ahead and iron it, and that's it. Use the same method for the blue Ankara. It's just the same thing, just the cutting that is different. And this one actually looks smaller, but trust me, it's not that small. And this will be the end of our tutorial today. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I'll see you on my next one. Be good. Bye.